Hard on this computer. Hi, Mr. Maredian.
Hello.
Nice to see you this morning. So everybody, I am interviewing Mr. Maredian, who is another music teacher in Roseville, and he is a drummer. His specialty is playing the drum kit, which is what we're going to talk about today. I showed you guys a drum kit a few weeks ago, and I showed you a basic backbeat on the drum kit, and I showed you a bass snare and talked about a hi-hat. And Mr. Maredian is going to really tell us all about the drum kit, show us what it looks like, what it sounds like, and tell us a little bit about how it came into existence. So could you start us out by just showing us your drum kit?
Sure thing. So you can take a quick little tour of my room here. So I'm going to try and get this so you can see everything. So that is my drum set. Hopefully you can kind of see that. At the bottom down there, we have the bass drum. And actually, maybe I can go from the back, see a little better. But on the bottom there, as you can see, we have a bass drum. There's a pedal right there on the floor that you can use to play it. We have these drums over here, which are the tom drums. We have a snare drum right here. I can quickly play those. So this is a snare drum. And then we have our toms. And then we have our cymbals, usually a ride, a crash cymbal, and a hi-hat stand like this. It's a pretty standard setup. There's other cymbals as well, but those are kind of the main ones.
Cool. Can you show us what it sounds like all together?
Sure thing. My face will probably get a little chopped off, but at least you can see the drums. So here's just a basic backbeat with a little fill.
Oh, you know what? On Zoom, they have this setting called Turn On Original Sound. It's up on the...
Is it not working?
Yeah, we can't hear it. So it's okay. We'll have some video clips of drum kits that we can play in a few minutes. And I will include a video clip of you playing the drums.
Cool.
Also. So anyway, kids, I promise the drums sound cool. And you can go check that out in a minute. We're going to show you about it. So I wanted Billy to tell us, like, we all kind of know what a drum kit is, more or less, but why, like, whose idea was it to put all those drums together? And it just seems so, you know, I play like woodwinds, flutes, and oboes and things like that. And playing all those different instruments at once just seems kind of like intense to me. But like, whose idea was that? How did that come to be? Can you just tell us a little bit about the history?
Definitely. So back in, 1800s and even before that, really, there was, kind of the common music. Well, I guess it depends on what part of the world you are. But for the sake of talking about drum sets, we had like orchestral music, and there was things like timpani drums. You had small auxiliary, like say egg shakers. You had, triangles, tambourines. Some of the pieces of the drum set I just showed, like the snare drum, you had what we call suspended cymbals and cymbals that you would clash together with your hands. So it was all sorts of different instruments, and they all kind of just required one person at a time to play them.
Can I show a clip of timpanis being played?
Yeah, definitely.
So timpanis are these really big, sometimes they call them cattle drums also, or maybe that's a different thing, but they're similar anyway. So here is a timpani, and I just realized that I need to share with the video optimized so that people can see this. Okay, here's the timpani. Oops. Here's my whole screen. Okay, one more time, everybody. Thanks for your patience. Here is the timpani, and it sounds like this. So that is an example of an orchestral drum.
Yes.
And then there's also lots of other percussion instruments that they play in orchestras, is what you were saying.
Right. Yeah. Too many to name it right off the top, but.
Right.
So basically, even like the tiniest things, like say an egg shaker, it would require at least one person just to be playing an egg shaker. So, as time went on, we, get kind of more to the late 1800s, early 1900s, we started to get into a lot of what we call musical theater, type music. Now musical theater has been around for a long time, but what we think of as like musical theater today, that kind of started to develop around that time. And we also had jazz music, which was kind of like the pop music of its day. So with these new types of music and theater, budgets kind of got smaller, ensembles got smaller, and people had to try and make more out of having less musicians. So that kind of just led to people ultimately getting creative. So they would start putting one person. I don't know if it was necessarily a single person or kind of a group of people all developing it, but we had the bass drum pedal. So originally bass drums were really huge and it required hitting with the mallet. They found a way to develop a pedal so you can play it with your foot, and then that freed up your hands to be doing something else while you're playing the bass drum. And then they made little hardware stands that could connect all sorts of things together. And that was basically in its very early stages what we call the trap drum set. And it's called trap because they called it was like a contraption. It was just like a bunch of stuff thrown together and made so that you can play multiple things at once. And I think that's what you're going to show right now.
Exactly. Yeah, a contraption. I never knew that I never made the connection between contraption and trap kit. But here is an example of a 1920s New Orleans style drum kit, which is like a jazz drum kit. Yeah, there's just a couple cymbals. That cymbal stand is like I can make it home. Well, I really love that style of drum playing. I think it's so fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So then what happened?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at like modern day like musical theater, you still see they don't necessarily look like that, but you still see lots of those instruments being used in like a musical theater type situation, and certain other ensembles as well. But when we see rock bands and pop music and stuff, generally we see kind of like what I showed back here. Your standard drum set, bass drum, kick drum, some toms, and a few cymbals. So in that video, he didn't have any hi-hats, and that's like a crucial, like 90% of music we listen to has a hi-hat, right? That's what's kind of driving our backbeats. And
can you just show us your hi-hat one more time?
Yeah, so it is this cymbal right here that is on the stand and kind of makes
so
that
how
sound.
Do you use it? Do you just play that kind of constantly to keep the beat when you're playing?
Yeah, so it has a pedal. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a pedal on the bottom that you press down to tighten it, and then you would just play it with your hand, and that's what you kind of use to keep the beat going.
Right, your hand or a stick, I would imagine. Huh?
Sorry, your stick, yes.
Yeah.
Drumsticks, not hands.
At least for that instrument.
Right. And actually, when they first made the hi-hat, it was actually called a sock cymbal. And so this stand, you can see it sits up pretty high and my hand can reach it with my drumstick, but it used to be just a tiny little stand that was like a few inches above the ground. And they actually didn't play it with their hands. They just used it for their foot to control and make a splashing cymbal sound.
Oh, interesting.
So again, back in the orchestra, you see it in modern day orchestra too, right? We have the cymbals that you see people crashing. You see it in marching band too. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to be able to use that sound, but still have their hands free to play other things. So they made a tiny little stand that you could splash the cymbals with. And then eventually it evolved and got bigger and bigger, so you could actually play it with your drumstick as well.
Right, and it has a foot pedal just like the bass drum.
Yep.
So I think we have this video lined up of like just how crazy a drum kit can get if you just keep adding more and more and more drums. So are you ready for us to play that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty excited about this video. This one was pretty crazy. Okay, here we go. I mean, what? One, two, three, four, but he's got 6 bass drums. I'm gonna skip to a little later and see how many of these drums he's playing later. All right. Well, if anyone wants to watch more of that kind of thing, this guy's name is Terry Bozzio. You can check him out on the internet, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, wow. Do you have anything else in closing to tell us about drum kits or?
Drums are awesome. Everybody should go out and buy a drum set. Enjoy
Okay. All right, kids. Everyone should go out and buy a drum set. Tell your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much. And everyone, I'm going to show you a little bit more pen tapping stuff. Have you ever tried pen tapping, Mr. Maredian?
Yeah, that was very popular when I was in middle school. I remember that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that some more another time.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
It was
you.
really great to talk to you about this. And yeah.
Hopefully everybody learned a little bit and got inspired and got some cool new rhythmic ideas now in your head.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Tori, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, that sounds good.